In this video, I want to introduce you to Paver. Paver is a drag and drop block editor, or page builder if you prefer that. And the difference to a lot of the other editors is that this one is PHP based. So this one is made for PHP developers, like I am. And I'm going to show you how you can install it. In this example in a Laravel application, but you can use it in any sort of PHP project. I've made dedicated packages for Laravel and WordPress. I'm going to show you how you can create your own block and how you can add your own custom options. So without further ado, let's dive in. So I have just set up a plain Laravel application with nothing in it, just a basic application. This is the default screen, and we're going to install Paver now. So let's all head on over to the documentation. And you'll notice we have a specific page detailing how you can install it for Laravel and how you can set up Paver in Laravel. So we're going to run this compose require script to install. And we're going to run this command to publish the config file. So that's that. Next, we're going to go to the setup section. And there are a couple of steps that we need to take. So for example, we need to add a middleware to our application. So we'll copy this, open our bootstrap app.php, and you'll see that I have already done that. But this is where you add this middleware portion. I'll save the file. Then there are a couple of endpoints we need to set up. There are a couple of endpoints that Paver needs to communicate, to render blocks, to fetch the options, stuff like that. So we're just going to copy this and paste it into our web.php. Save and quickly import the classes. Next, we're going to render the editor. And it really is as simple as just copying this blade component, and we're just going to insert it into our welcome page, which is the default landing page that I've just shown you. Just going to remove all the boilerplate stuff here and inject the blade components. And we don't have any content yet, so I'm just going to remove that for now. And I think if I refresh the page now, we should see an editor. And there it is. Okay, so we have our editor being rendered in our application, but we don't have any blocks yet. So first, I'm just going to let you see the example block that comes with Paver, just to give you an idea. All right, so let's open our Paver config file. And under the registered blocks, you'll see an example block being listed, and we're going to uncomment that. And when we save this and head on back over to the editor, you'll see that this block has now been is now being displayed. So we can drag and drop that within the editor frame. And you see that there is a block being rendered, and I can drag it and I can clone it and I can delete it, but I can also edit it. And when I click edit, on the right side, you'll see that I can input a name. So when I type my own name, you'll see that it is rendered on the left side. The block is re-rendered and now my name is visible there. So one thing you'll notice is that there is a bit of a weird margin here, and this font is the really default font of the browser, and we probably want to change that. So what we can do, you can of course add that within this specific block through styling, but you can also add styling to the editor frame. And that is what we're going to do now. So when we go to the Paver config file and we scroll down a little bit, you'll see that we have frame templates. And we have a template for the head section of our editor frame, and we have it for the footer. So I'm going to create a blade file now within our views directory. And I'm going to paste the CDN version of Tailwind in this template. Hit save. Then I'll update the head template value here to be paver.head, which is referencing this view. Save it. And if we now re-render the editor and add the block again, you'll notice that the margin issue has been resolved and that the default font has also changed. Obviously, you can add anything you'd like within the head or for the HTML, and you can, of course, apply your own styling in any way you want. So now that we have our example block added to the editor, it's probably time to look at how we can add our own custom block to the editor. But first, let's have a look at the code of the example block. So when we look at the example block class, you'll see that it has a reference, it has a name, it has a data array, and a render and options method. For our custom block, we're just going to copy this block code and we'll create our own custom file in our Paver blocks namespace, and we call it custom. We'll copy and paste the code, and we'll change the name to custom. Change this to app.custom, but you can type in anything you like here. Call this custom. And we need to import our block class. Hit save, and then we can register our custom block in our config file. Hit save, and I think that if we go back to the editor now and refresh, I made a little mistake. This needs to be app. Forgot to change the namespace there. So on our second try, yes, that works. So there we have our custom block. So maybe it would be nice to grab something from Tailwind UI and add that as a block. So I thought maybe this testimonial would be a nice example. So we'll grab the code here and paste it into our render method. Add some indentation. So in addition to the name, we also need to have a content. We'll quickly grab the value that is set here. And we also need a job title, which is CEO of workation, and we need an image. All right, let's also change the name like that. All right, so we have set the data, but now of course the data needs to be mapped into the HTML. So here we'll change the testimonial content. Like so. The image URL. And we have the name and of course the job title. All right, let's save that. And of course we also want to be able to edit those values, so we'll add our job title. First argument here is the label name. The second is the name, job title. Then we have the testimonial. We'll use a text area for that. So like this, import the class. And for the image URL, we're going to use a simple input for now. Save this, and if all goes well, we should be able to see this testimonial block in the editor and be able to edit its contents. So let's head on over back to the browser. And there we have it. And of course, when I click edit now and I change the name to Sandra, you'll see that be reflected here. And she is now the CTO. And that is reflected here as well. So yeah, there is our custom block. And obviously this can hopefully inspire you to create your own blocks. I think it's very powerful. Looks pretty good responsive wise, but that is obviously thanks to Tailwind UI. So yeah, that's our custom block. Of course, we have an image field, which is now just a URL and an input field. For WordPress, we have a custom image upload option available. But for Laravel and other projects, you actually need to create your own image upload input. And I'm thinking about creating a screencast for that as well to show you how you can do that. But I think that is a separate video. Just to give you a glimpse of how you can create your own options, we'll head on over back to the editor. And as you can see, we have an options array. But ultimately, what you need to do to add custom options is just you return a string of HTML and you do the data binding through something called xModel, which comes from Alpine. So if you just add a string here, and you say, for example, input type number, just as an example, and we say xModel stars, this should probably already work if I add it to the data array. Give a default value of 5. Save it. I think that this should already work. And there you have it. There, obviously, the styling is not perfect, but just to give you an idea, and I can edit the amount of stars, but it's not reflected in our template yet. So let's quickly add that as well. We'll do it just to give you an indication. Like so, and actually we'll add a couple of classes here as well so that the input looks a bit nicer. Like so. That should be a bit better. So you see stars 5 when I click edit, and now if I update it, you'll see it being reflected. So this gives you an idea of how flexible it actually is. You can just create your own Alpine components, and as long as you map it with the data of your block, it will be rendered in your block. So you can imagine creating an image upload is very doable. So one thing we haven't touched on is how can you store the content? How can you render the editor with existing content? Well, let's have a look at the documentation. So there are basically two ways you can store the content of your editor. One way is to wrap the editor within a form, and the editor actually has a hidden input field which is called Paver editor content, and within there is a JSON string which holds all the data of your editor. Another thing is you can opt to set show save button to true, which will reveal a built-in save button. And when that is clicked, a browser event is being dispatched called Paver save. And you can use that with Alpine or Livewire even, to then hook onto that and then store your content, for example, in the database or whatever you choose. As an example, I'm going to just look at the source after I've added this block. And if I scroll down a bit, you'll see that here you have the hidden input field with the JSON value here. And I can just, let's see, copy that. So let's say I want to render that content within the editor. I can just add it here Obviously, you would probably fetch this from the database, but I'm just going to do it like this for now. We'll JSON decode it, because the blade component here expects an array. We'll pass that along, and if all goes well, if we refresh the page now, we should have some content in it. And as you can see, that works. All right, so we now know how to render our editor. We know how to make custom blocks. We know how to create custom options, and we know how to store the data, but how do we actually render it? Let's have a look at the documentation. So here you can see it's actually really simple to render the editor content once you've stored it somewhere. We'll just copy this code, head on over to the editor, and I'm just going to reuse this content that we set earlier. And I'm going to say echo, pass in the content, we'll comment out the editor itself, because we just want to see the content now. And one thing to note, because I'm working in this welcome.php file, which is not really including Tailwind completely, I'm just going to quickly grab this bit and add it here, because otherwise, styling wise, it is not completely the same. And one last thing, I want to actually import this class. And when we refresh the page, it should work, fingers crossed. But it doesn't. And it's actually good that it doesn't, because I can show you why. It says that the app custom block has not been found. And why is that? Because our page is not aware of this block existing. Because we haven't registered the middleware on our welcome route. So if I add middleware Paver, this makes it so that this page is now aware of the registered, the blocks that we have registered. So if I save this and refresh the page, it actually works. All right. So obviously this is just a glimpse of how Paver works. It's an introduction. I could go way deeper into how you can create custom options and stuff like that. And I could show you the WordPress integration. But there's only so many I can show you in one video. I'm thinking about creating additional videos to dive deeper. I recommend you take a look at the documentation. I'm also very looking forward to people using Paver and giving feedback and maybe even contributing to it. Take a look at GitHub for that. But yeah, for this video, this is it, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you take a look at Paver. Thank you.